The girl on the ramparts had been weeping for so long that the stones beneath her feet were slick with tears. Dawn drifted over River Run as a pale shimmer, turning the river to beaten copper, and yet Catelyn Stark could not bring herself to step away. The wind off the tumblestone was gentle, almost kind, carrying the scent of wet reeds and the distant cry of her father's herons. She remembered this battlement as a place of childish games, of Edmure's boasts and Lysa's laughter, of Petyr Baelish standing small and thin beside them all. Now every memory lay smothered beneath the vision of Eddard Stark's head mounted above the Red Keep. Mother. Robb's voice was deeper than it had been when she last stood with him at Winterfell. Deeper still than when she kissed his brow on the King's Road and begged the old gods to keep him safe. That boy was gone. A young man stood in his place, mail gleaming at the neck, shoulders broader, cheeks roughened by a beard, neither brown nor auburn, but the vague twilight shade in between. Gray wind patted after him, silent and imposing. Silver fur dappling gold beneath the newborn sun. The dire wolf's breath puffed in slow clouds, as calm as a hunting cat's yawn, yet a growl, low as thunder in a distant valley, rumbled in his chest. Catelyn wiped her cheeks with hard fingers. "Tell me we can bring him home," she whispered, though the rivers carried her plea away. "When the war is won," Robb answered. It might have been a promise. It might have been a prayer. The words hung between them like frost. Below, courtyards throbbed with movement. Northmen in shaggy furs and riverlords, bright in copper trout, and scarlet eagles and sable ravens, assembled side by side, banners snapping above heads bent with weariness. Some men had marched 200 leagues to stand beneath these walls. Some had slept not a full night since the twins. Yet all looked to the son of Eddard Stark, and when his cloak rippled in the breeze, a hush rolled outward like ripples from a pebble dropped into still water. They think him a king already, Catelyn realized. The name had taken on a life of its own. Whispered at campfires, carried on the wings of ravens, woven through songs plucked on old lutes. King in the north. She feared it. She feared for her boy's life, and for the vengeance that sharpened his every breath. But more than that, she feared the story people were eager to write, a tale of icebound independence, of old oaths broken and new crowns forged beside weirwoods. Robb's eyes, blue yet edged in gray like the northern sea in storm, watched the milling host below. "They await a word," he said distantly. "One word, and they will hail me." A gull wheeled overhead, laughing at secrets. "They wait for hope," Catelyn said. "Yet hope can be offered in many shapes." Robb turned to her. The boy she knew flickered behind the hard lines of command. "Your counsel?" he asked. She took his hands, grew from weapons practice, warm despite the river wind. "My father lies dying in those chambers." She inclined her head toward the keep's central tower. "Edmure commands the Tully host, yet he bleeds still from the Whispering Wood. And the Riverlands suffer most of all. If your lord father were here, he would remember the price King Torrhen paid when he knelt to Aegon. Torches and tears or peace prolonged. That was the choice. The North may stand apart, aye, but the Riverlands burn already. A king can lift a sword, or a shield. Eddard." Robb listened. His jaw worked as though grinding slow stone. "A king of the Riverlands," he said at last. "No." Catelyn looked to the purpled light, where the tumblestone met the red fork. "A king for the Riverlands. A son of the Riverlands and of the North both. Let the southern lords see you as their own, not a winter wolf come raiding for crowns." "Nanny." Robb's brows knitted. "The Blackfish urged me to proclaim the North free. The Blackfish follows his honor, and his honor is Flint and Adise. But honor can wear two faces." She dared squeeze his knuckles. "Wear the trout and direwolf as one sigil. Claim the rivers for your birthright through me, through your grandsire. Make the Freys, the Brackens, the Blackwoods, the Darrys kneel not to a stranger king in Winterfell, but to their blood come home. Then with one land secured, the North may remain steadfast without seceding. Riverrun becomes your capital, and Winterfell your ancient seat. One crown saves two realms. That's it. Grey Wind's ears twitched, as though he understood the strategy unfolding. Robb unclasped his cloak, letting it fall across the battlement, a swath of grey wool embroidered with the snarling wolf's head. Beneath, his surcoat bore both devices already stitched hastily by camp seamstresses. Tully silver trout beneath stark direwolf, divided by a diagonal of rivulets. He had worn them for love. Now they hinted at policy. A crown for River Run, he murmured. Will the Riverlords bend? They bend to strength and to promise. Show them you are not merely Winter's child but River's heir. Promise them restoration. Promise to guard their villages with northern steel. Speak first to Mark Piper, Jason Mallister, Sir Carol Vance. Win the young hawks, the old ravens will follow. Win the young hawks, the old ravens will follow. Robb nodded. He seemed both liberated and burdened in the same heartbeat. Then let us do it swiftly. He eyed the sun climbing. Before doubt set root, they descended the stone steps. Caitlin felt each tread as the measured beat of fate's drum. Below, trumpets sounded thinly. Men straightened spines. Grey Wind raced ahead, scattering sparrows. In the great hall, Edmure lay propped by pillows, bandaged shoulder crisscrossed with scarlet blooms. Blackfish Brynden stood sentinel. When Robb entered, both Tully men raised eyes, startled by the hardness that shadowed his brow. "Uncle," Robb addressed Brynden, "I must call the banners, River and North both, to witness a council at midday in the Godswood. Send riders through the camps." Edmure's lips parted. "A council? We have war to make." "And war we shall," Robb answered, kneeling at the bedside. "Yet first we must know why." Brynden's dark eyes, sharp as spear points, searched Robb's face. "What game is this, boy?" "No game, sir," Robb said evenly. "Ohs." The Godswood of River Run was no Winterfell, but its ancient oak and ash offered solace. The heart tree, a pale weirwood transplanted in some forgotten century, wore a carved face of sorrow stern enough to daunt a sellsword. Beneath its crimson leaves the lords gathered, murmuring. Sunlight lanced through branches, painting armor with a mosaic of blood and gold. Mark Piper lounged against a root, feathered cloak bright as a pheasant's plume. His grin faded when Robb strode enclasping his sword belt with measured calm. Lord Jason Mallister stood proud and lean, sea eagle badge polished to mirror brightness. Lord Bracken glared across at Tito's Blackwood, ages-old hatred simmering. Ser Stevron Frey, thin-lipped, represented the twins in Lord Walder's stead. He hovered like a wary crane beside his ungainly son, Sir Ryman. Many Northmen filled the gaps, Great Jen Umber looming like a boulder, Roose Bolton pale in the shadows, Mage Mormont wearing mail forged for bears. Caitlin observed from the fringe. Hands knotted beneath her cloak. She watched her son claim a stump grown smooth as seat of judgment. Grey Wind sank at his feet. The hush trembled. "My lords," Robb began, "you have marched far, fought bravely, bled much. You have done so for my father's honor, for your homes, for justice against a false boy king, and the lions who slay children in their sleep. Yet before another sword is drawn, we must choose what realm we fight for." Memem Torso. A ripple ran through the assembly. Never had clearer eyes looked upon them than those of Roose Bolton, and never had a deeper grunt rumbled than the Great John's. But neither spoke. Robb's voice strengthened. The North is ancient, proud, and fierce. Yet the North is tied to the Riverlands by blood older than any parchment. My mother is Tully, granddaughter of Lord Medgar Tully, who held these lands before Eris was born. My uncle bleeds for River Run. My grandfather withers within its walls. As much as I am wolf, I am trout. And so I say this. Let us make one realm of two, not by conquering, but by uniting. Sir Carol Vance's brow furrowed. What realm do you name, Sir Robb? We have no wish to kneel to Winterfell if Winterfell intends to secede. I name no king in the north. Not today, Robb replied. I name instead a crown of rivers, a kingdom whose heart beats in River Run, whose blood flows in every fork and stream from the neck to the Blackwater Rush. I would wear that crown as your liege, and in bearing it, I swear to guard your towns as fiercely as I guard Winterfell. The North shall remain my heritage, yet I shall be first a river king, sprung of Tully stock, bound by family to every house sworn to the trident. Nectar? An intake of breaths. Somewhere a jay shrieked. Lord Mallister inclined his head. River King, that is a name from the Age of Heroes, a bold claim, Lord Stark. Lord Tully's blood runs in me, Robb said. Bold, yet rightful. Unite beneath me, and the Lannisters must march through a single realm forged of two, each guard against the other's flank. Refuse, and we stand as scattered reeds before the lion's maw. Bendermensin. The great John laughed, booming thunder. Does that leave the North kneeling to you, boy? Because I'll not bend my knee to any Southron king. Robb rose, facing the umber giant without flinch. The North kneels to none, save her own heart. Winterfell stands free as she has since the first men set foot on shore. But I will not sunder her from her marrow. Let the North pledge aid, not fealty. Let her lords ride at my side as allies, brothers in steel. The King of Rivers does not demand northern oaths, he earns them. Bedis. A silence deeper than prior fell. Then, quietly, Tito's Blackwood stepped forward. The raven sigil on his cloak fluttered. His lined face betrayed fatigue older than war. He bent the knee. House Blackwood remembers the days of River Kings, he said. We remember Andals and first men mixing blood. We remember honor when it walked in daylight. You speak of honor now. I and mine will follow you, King of Rivers. Any murmur. Mallister fell to one knee next. Then Piper, grin returning. Sir Carol Vance followed, pressing fist to chest. Even Bracken, cheeks flushed, lowered himself after a bitter swallow. Davron Frey hesitated. My Lord Father must approve. Robb fixed him with ice. Lord Walder approved the crossing, he said softly. The crossing saved Lord Walder's hide from Tywin Lannister. Tell him the Riverlands remember such debts. Stevron's joints cracked as he knelt. Now every eye turned north. The great John glared at Bolton, at Mormont, at Karstark. But it was Roose Bolton who inclined his chin, voice slippery as oil. The Dreadfort admires prudence. To spare northern smallfolk a needless war for sovereignty is mercy. I shall stand at your side, your grace. Denno. Grace. Duct. The word rippled. Great John's laughter burst again. I'll call you king, boy, he bellowed, so long as there's meat on the bone and wars to win. The North will ride beside you. If it's lions you want to kill, we'll gladly help. One by one, the Northmen knelt. Not in vassalage, but in promise. They knelt to honor, to blood, to vengeance well aimed. Robb Stark, River King, lifted his sword. Ice's brother, forged lighter for his hands, and the sun grasped the steel and made it blaze. Rise, my lords, he commanded. Rise and make ready. The rivers will swell red with lion blood before this season wanes. In that moment, Catelyn saw her son crowned not with gold, but with purpose. The weirwood's carved face seemed to weep for joy, red sap dripping like sacrament. The final ravens flew before dusk, wings black blotches against a marmalade sky. Messages bore a sigil freshly devised. A silver trout leaping over a gray direwolf, both encircled by twin ripples, symbolizing Red Fork and Green Fork. Word would spread to Seaguard and Pink Maiden salt pans, to lonely holdfasts along river bends where millers huddled and prayed for deliverance. Robb dismissed his lords to sup and plan. Catelyn lingered in the godswood, savoring the scent of moss and the hush broken only by the lap of water against stone. She heard footsteps light as reed fronds behind her. Brynden Tully approached, arms folded. You play a subtle game, cat, he said. No censure in his tone, only wry approval. I play for my children's lives, she answered. He has taken to kinghood with unnatural speed. He was born for burden, she said, as I was born for grief. The blackfish's shadow stretched long. Tywin will not sit idle, he warned. Nor will the phrase, once Walder's vanity is pricked. I know. Brinton eyed the river beyond the walls. Still, he said softly, there is something in this that feels right. A river king after so long. Mayhaps the gods of wood and stone remember we exist. Nap. Catelyn closed her eyes. Somewhere beyond the river, a war horn brayed. Somewhere, Sansa languished. Arya fled. Bran dreamt. Rickon wept. But here, for one heartbeat, hope had teeth. Night blanketed River Run in velvet pierced by torchlight. Robb stood in the solar above the central courtyard, poring over maps with Roose Bolton, Galbart Glover and Jason Mallister. Arrows marked potential thrusts. One toward Harrenhal, another south along the Roserwad to cut the Kingslayer's retreat, a third sweeping east to blockade the Blackwater by river barge. Catelyn entered, cloak shedding droplets from an unforeseen drizzle. Edmure is awake, she announced. He asks to see his king. Robb's shoulders squared. Maps can wait. He excused himself. Edmure lay upon fresh linen, his cheeks flushed with stubborn life. When Robb appeared, he tried to rise. Pain lanced through the effort, and he sank back, cursing softly. Lie still, uncle, Robb said. Edmure's eyes, still boyish despite lines, brimmed. They tell me you mean to wear a crown born of river water, he rasped. I do. Then, hear this. Edmure's fingers groped for Robb's wrist, gripping with surprising strength. Win it not by words alone, win it by river valor. The lions will come again, and when they do, you must hold this land the way Hoster held his children, fiercely and without hesitation. Robb bowed his head. I will. Edmure smiled crookedly. Then bring me back a victory. I will not die until I see one. Netchim down. His king clasped his hand until sleep reminded the wounded lord of his frailty. Beyond the castle, camps sprawled like rough-spun cities. Fires winked beneath pavilions of bear hide and fish-scale silk. Somewhere pipes played a mournful tune older than Andal's. Men sharpened spears, mended kettles, diced away spoils. Horses stamped frost-bit grass, aware of journeys yet to come. Over all, the faint silhouette of a direwolf banner kissed the star-needle moon, and beside it fluttered the leaping trout. Catelyn stood upon the East Tower balcony with Maester Vyman. The sigils together look strange, she said, and yet they suit, Vyman replied. Rivers and north, ice and current. A contradiction, aye, but contradictions birth great legends. Or tragedies. Legends first. The Maester's smile was wan. Below, Robb mounted a platform hastily cobbled from wagon planks. The King of Rivers addressed his host by torchfire. His voice rose clear above clanking steel and blowing horses. Tomorrow, he declared, we march to Archie. Sir Stafford Lannister scrapes together new levies in the west. We will not wait for his claws to sharpen. We will seize the golden tooth, press on to Ashmark, and shatter their nerve before it grows. Riverlords will protect their villages. Northmen will range ahead, screening passes. We fight not for vengeance alone, but for every child who hides beneath a thatched roof tonight, wondering if gold armor will trample their field by dawn. We fight for rivers unpolluted by blood, for wolf and trout alike, and we will prevail, because the waters of this land remember. They remember oaths, and they remember justice, and they remember the taste of lion flesh. Men. A roar answered him. One voice of many throats. It rolled across the tumblestone, startling herons from roost. Firelight caught blades lifted skyward until the night seemed hung with silver reeds. Catelyn felt a sudden quiver in her heart, not fear, but anticipation overwhelming. She glimpsed Eddard in the proud set of Robb's shoulders, Hoster in the determined chin, her own fire in the eyes. The storms gathering over Westeros were vast. Yet here, in the cradle of two bloodlines, a single storm-born king had risen. Not of ice nor of fire, but of flowing steel. And when the rivers swelled, all the kingdoms would feel their flood. Vignette. The next dawn brought rain, fine needling rain that softened soil into dark pudding, and made cloaks cling heavy as guilt. The armies broke camp regardless, drums echoing through mist. Columns of pikemen wound along the riverbank, banners dripping color. Horsemen kicked water from puddles, hounds bayed, carts groaned under barrels of salted fish and northern oats. At the head rode Robb, cloak hooded, gray wind splashing beside his destroyer like a specter of primordial wild. Catelyn rode close behind with Brynden and a guard of Mallister men. She watched the red stone of Riverrun fade into curtain of rain, and wondered if she would ever see her girlhood home again. The road west beckoned, a river of mud threading hills charred by raiders, fields sprouting burnt thatch where farmsteads once stood. An hour into the march, a rider flagged across the vanguard. Daisy Mormont, green eyes bright despite drizzle. "Your Grace," she hailed Robb. "Scouts report a column ahead. Survivors from Fairmarket, near 400 small folk led by Septon Reichard. They seek refuge behind our lines." "Let them through," Robb said. "Feed them." He glanced back. "Mother, ride with them, learn what they saw." Catelyn did. The small folk shuffled like wraiths. A wash of mud hid cuts on faces, but not bruises. The Septon's hands shook as he recounted. Gregor Clegane's men raised Fairmarket 6 nights past, dragging women screaming toward Casterly Rock, for recompense, they were told. The men hanged over the Red Forks Bridge. The children, some were missing still. The rest marched hollow-eyed now among Catelyn's horse. She found Robb an hour later. He listened in silence, jaw tightening with each horror. When she finished, he turned to Roose Bolton. "Send word to Sir Helmund Tallhart. His outriders will flank east along the river and hunt Gregor's band. Spare no one wearing lion crimson." Bolton inclined his head, expression unreadable. Yet there was something hungry in his pale stare Catelyn did not like. Rain thickened. By dusk, the hosts reached the edge of acorn woods near the stone mill. Fires sputtered beneath makeshift awnings. Catelyn walked among wounded horses, soothing with soft speech. She found Arya in every scruffy stable boy, Sansa in every gentle daughter cradling a hungry babe, Bran in each frightened shepherd tot, clinging to a too small shepherd's crook. Then a horn blast rent the air. 3 notes, urgent. Scouts galloped in, mud spraying. "Lannister outriders," they cried. "South Ridge, banners of Sir Tywin's van. 2,000 spear." The camp snapped arms. Robb strode through rows of half-lit fires, donning helm and sword. Gray wind's growl reverberated across the drizzle, hearts hammering in answer. On a rise thick with withered heather, the River King drew up his battle line by torchlight. Armor glimmered damply, shields winking trout and wolf alike. Across the shallow valley, torched by nightfall, the Lannister outriders arrayed, burgundy standards tossing like wounded beasts in the wind. Catelyn could barely breathe. This was no planned engagement. Yet the measure of a king lay not only in strategies drawn leisurely, but in instincts taken amid chaos. Rain ceased, as if the very clouds paused to witness. Robb turned in the saddle, lifted his voice for his vanguard only, though it traveled to every ear. "They come to test our mettle," he said. "Show them river iron does not bend." And with the simple drop of his hand, the world erupted. Northmen charged down the slope, war cries throttling the wet air, shields up like storm fronts. Riverlords poured after, pikes angled, militia spearmen screaming vengeance for torched hamlets. From the left, Jason Mallister's knights looped red capes into torrents, hammers battering. The battle was savage, swift, unplanned, yet something elemental guided Robb's movements. He cut through gaps like a blade through water, gray wind at his side rending men from horses. Rainwater mixed with blood, pooling in tracks illuminated by torches hurled for light. Catelyn, kept back by Brynden's firm grip, saw death bloom like crimson flowers across the hillside. She saw her son's cloak slash and whirl amid sparks and shrill clatter. Then, the lions broke. Panic rippled, crimson banners folding, horses kicking. Mallister's flanking wedge pierced their flank. The Northmen's furious howl rose. The Lannisters fled east into the night, leaving corpses like fallen apples in their wake. It was over before moon climbed far. When Robb at last lifted helm from sweat-matted hair, his cheeks streaked gore, eyes shining with some fierce clarity, he raised sword skyward. A roar answered, rolling across valley and echoing back from wooded ridges. Catelyn forced herself forward, skirts heavy with battle mud. Robb met her halfway. In his face she saw not triumph, but resolve hardened to iron. "Tell the men," he said, voice hoarse yet steady. "The rivers have claimed their first blood tithe, and they are not yet sated." She nodded. Behind him, torches guttered around bodies stripped of lion red. Now nothing but men unmade. Rain began again, quiet as penance. That night, tents glowed marmoreal, like lanterns floating upon a dark sea. Robb convened his captains to parcel prisoners, to count dead, to speak of next marches. Catelyn sat alone before a small fire, needlework frozen in her lap. Each stitch quivered to life with memory. Of Sansa's humming, of Arya's groans. She breathed and smelled not wet wool, but Winterfell's smoke. From shadow, Roose Bolton emerged. "My lady," he said, bowing. "Lord Bolton," she returned. "His grace fought like a wraith," Bolton observed. "Astonishing. Yet battles of chance seldom decide wars. Strategy will." She did not take the bait. "You have thoughts?" "Simply that Harrenhal remains the key. Seize that ruin and we slice the lion in twain." Catelyn folded her cloth. "A ruin it is, but a mighty one, and rife with ghosts." "Me." Bolton's lips curled faintly. "The living are often more troublesome than specters." He bowed again and vanished into dark. Catelyn stared at the place he'd stood. Roose spoke truths, but truths could be daggers. Dawn found the host marching west anew, leaving behind a hillside of shallow graves. Scouts sped forth like minnows before Leviathan. Edmure's letters caught them at the Third League. Lord Tywin himself was on the move from Harrenhal, driving a host north along the Blackwater Road. Another Lannister army, under Ser Stafford, gathered at Lannisport. Time narrowed like a choking throat. Robb called council that night beside a mill house abandoned by miller and mice alike. Candles guttered on rough boards, maps weighed by bread trenchers. The air hummed with tension. "We march to the Golden Tooth," Robb stated. "Seize it before Stafford hardens his recruits. Then strike the Lannister heartlands, force Tywin to whirl about. If he turns, Riverrun breathes. If he refuses, we hold the tooth against him till he starves his own mines." Greatjon slammed fist to table in glee. Roose Bolton traced lines along the map, like a surgeon measuring veins. Riverlords nodded grimly. "And if Tywin marches on Riverrun regardless?" Brynden pressed. "Then Edmure will hold," Robb said. "And I will ride like summer storm to his relief." Catelyn tasted fear behind the plan. Edmure's wounds, Riverrun's thinning stores, Tywin's ruthless cunning. Yet she saw no better path in this labyrinth of iron choices. She rose. All eyes turned. "My lords," she said, "I would ride to Renly Baratheon's camp. He gathers 100,000 in the south. If he marches north while we press west, the Lannisters will be caught in crushing jaws." "But, S?" Roose Bolton's brows lifted. "Renly is boy king like the other. Renly is many swords," Catelyn said. "Many swords end wars." Robb considered. Candlefire painted hollows beneath his eyes. "Go then," he decided. "Take Ser Wendell Mandalay, Ser Perwyn Frey, Galbart Glover. Secure a pact." She inclined her head, heart hammering. Mother and son locked gazes, a farewell forged in steel. 2 days later, under wan light, Catelyn Stark rode south with her escort, leaving behind the River King and his river crown unseen, yet weighty as anvils of fate. She bore letters bound in wax, promises scrawled in hurried ink, hopes fragile as moth wings. Each hoofbeat carried her further from one child, perhaps nearer to saving others. Robb watched her vanish into whispering trees. Rain had left moss glittering. He turned to Brynden. "Uncle," he said, "sound the march. West to the tooth, west to the mines. Let the rivers carve new history across stone." Brynden saluted. Horns soon blared. Men moved like river currents unbound, 1,000 streams merging. From a ridge, gray wind howled. The note shivered through leaves across water into the bones of every man who heard. It was a cry of claim, of prowling power, of future killings yet to come. Beneath that howl, the River King mounted his stallion, drew sword, and pointed west. And the rivers obeyed. Outside the circle of torchlight, mist curled like specters, swallowing roads, swallowing answers. Yet Robb Stark did not look back. The river crown, invisible but undeniable, pressed upon his brow, shaping every choice henceforth. He could not know where paths forked toward doom or glory. He knew only that water will find its way, even through stone. So he rode. And with each mile, the war for Westeros reshaped itself. Not in the cold halls of Dragonstone or the fetid chambers of King's Landing, but upon muddy banks where trouts leapt and deerwolves prowled, where rivers met oceans, and where a boy became a king whose reign would wash across the 7 kingdoms like spring flood, unstoppable, cleansing and cruel. Ja-ee. The golden tooth broke the horizon like a jagged fang, catching the last embers of sunset in its pitted stone. Robb reined his destrier at the edge of the ridge, surveying the fortress that had watched the mountain pass for 1,000 years. Lightning flickered beyond distant peaks, carving black spires against a bruised sky. Thunder rolled a heartbeat later, low and steady, like the growl of some colossal hound. At his side, Grey Wind's hackles bristled as though he too sensed the storm's impatience. Below, in the bowl of the valley, the River King's host settled into positions mapped 3 nights earlier around a smoky campfire. Meg Mormont's spears glinted beneath oil-soaked cloaks along the northern slope. Sir Jason Mallister's knights arrayed beneath the remnants of an old goat track that winter rains had scoured deep. To the south, Roose Bolton's column wound along switchbacks like a silver serpent, torches blinking through the gloom as his infantry sought the blind side of the curtain wall. Banners pressed wetly to staffs, trout and direwolf interlaced, bear paw beside flayed man, eagle above wild boar. Rain threatened, heavy with metallic taste, yet the armies moved without hesitation, boots finding purchase in shale and moss. Robb's mind flickered through his lessons at Winterfell's Great Hall. Maester Luwin's precise gravel voice explaining that the Golden Tooth, unlike Moat Cailin or Storm's End, was a fortress meant to intimidate, not endure. Its walls high but narrow, its towers tall but thin, its gatehouse perched on a plug of rock quarried badly centuries ago. A prolonged siege could starve it. A swift assault might shatter it. Stafford Lannister had packed its bailey with levies still wet behind the ears from plows and pigsties. They would break. They must break, before Tywin reforged them into iron discipline. He handed the looking glass to Brynden Tully. "Signal the ravens," he said. "All commanders to their points." Brynden nodded, jaw set as firmly as the stone beneath them. Torchlight reflected in his dark eyes as he raised a gauntleted fist. A boy raced down the ridge toward the Maester's cage wagon. Moments later, black wings beat skyward, pinpricks against the encroaching night. Robb slid his helm over damp hair. Sound the advance. The horn blast carried through pine trunks, through rock clefts, through the very bones of the fortress. A second answer drifted from Mallister's line, then a third from Bolton's. In the valley basin, shields locked, spear tips angled. The drizzle grew to hard rain, drumming on iron and leather, muting the creak of harness and the jangle of mail. Robb turned to Greatjon Umber. "You have the honor of knocking, my lord." The Greatjon grinned, rain seeping into his beard until it glistened like red glass. He lifted his great axe in salute, then lumbered down the slope bellowing orders to the siege ram crew. 10 Umber Huskarls stripped to the waist despite the chill, bodies painted with swirling blue patterns that rain failed to wash away. They hefted the ram, an ash log capped with iron fangs, and tramped toward the gate in step with Bolton's line, shields held overhead to form a haphazard turtle. Arrows hissed from the battlements, but darkness and rain robbed them of bite. A shaft clanged from Robb's pauldron. Another shattered against Grey Wind's flank and fell harmlessly as the great wolf snarled. In the torchlit gloom, the garrison's forms moved frantically, hauling cauldrons, shouting warnings lost beneath the wind. Somewhere a trumpeter attempted a rally call, but his brass note wavered into silence when a Mallister arrow found his throat. Robb spurred forward with his honor guard, cutting across the valley floor to meet Mage Mormont's flank. Mud sucked at hooves, lightning flashed, white and jagged, revealing the wall's green-black slickness. For one heartbeat, the fortress seemed a derelict ship pitched on an obsidian sea, sails shorn, crew scrambling. Then thunder boomed, and the world shrank again to rain and shadow. Bolton's men reached the outer ditch first. Planks dropped across in choreographed haste. Axes bit into the palisade. Grapnels sailed. Lannister crossbow strings twanged, but many bolts skittered from wet shields. The flayed man banners gleamed luridly whenever lightning forked, a splash of crimson horror. Robb felt a chill as he watched Bolton's soldiers fight, silent, methodical, like surgeons dissecting a corpse. Yet there was no time to admire or fear. The gatehouse beckoned. The ram slammed at the oak gate once, twice, thrice. The iron-shod tip split timber with a noise like a giant's rib cracking. On the fourth blow, under a fresh volley of defensive arrows, the left-hand leaf shuddered inward. Hot pitch cascaded from the parapet, splattering across the umber shield turtle. Two huskarls screamed, flesh searing, but the others held formation, pressing forward until the ram's head punched fully through the breach. Umber himself seized a broken spar, jammed it between hinges, and roared in triumph as the entire gate buckled. Robb kicked his mount. The moment the mouth gaped wide enough, Grey Wind bolted ahead, a flash of silver-white. Robb followed with 20 mounted Northmen and 30 Piper men-at-arms on foot. The bailey erupted into chaos. Carts tipped, anvil fires sputtered, frightened horses shrieked. Robb's sword caught the sheen of forge light as he cleaved a levy's spear haft, wheeled, and spitted the boy through the shoulder rather than the heart. Mercy by inches, but mercy still. He shouted, "Yield and be spared," though most could scarcely hear above the drumming rain and the crash of umber axes. Mallister's knights poured through a breach in the curtain wall, hooves slapping mud. Roose Bolton's men clawed up the southern tower, seizing the parapet with hooks, and flanked defenders at arrow range. Meg Mormont's spears hemmed the inner yard, capturing a knot of levies cowering near Hyrix. Within heartbeats, resistance fractured like thin ice. A trumpeter dropped his horn and raised empty palms. A squire flung down his sword and began to sob. Even the Lannister men-at-arms, those few in proper plate rather than patchwork, backed toward the donjon door with wary steps, unsure whether to fight or parley. Robb dismounted near the wellhead. Water overflowed the stone rim, turning to crimson where blood dripped from his gauntlet. He ripped off his helm, rain stinging his face, and called out, "Where is Sir Stafford Lannister? Bring him forth." A hush crept across the courtyard, broken only by distant clash on the outer rampart. Then the donjon doors yawned and Sir Stafford emerged, flanked by 2 gold-cloaked retainers. He wore a half-fastened breastplate over quilted orange gambeson, blonde hair plastered to his cheeks, expression taut between fear and pride. Robb stepped forward. "Sir Stafford, by rights of war and blood spilled, I demand your surrender." Stafford hissed, "You ride under stolen banners, boy. Tywin will answer. Tywin sent you here to harden boys into men." Robb cut him off. "I shattered that plan tonight. Lay down arms, and those boys live." Rain ticked on steel. Stafford's gaze swept the yard and beheld Umber's huskarls hemming his men, Mallister knights mopping up the last clutch of crossbowmen near the smithy, Bolton archers lining the parapet with barbed menace. He sagged. His sword rang dully as it struck flagstones. "I yield. Order your men to do likewise." Robb's tone softened, almost regretful. "The wounded will be tended. Your officers will be treated with honor until ransomed." Stafford nodded, voice hollow as a mourner's bell. "Hear me," he called. "Yield arms. The fortress is lost." Swords clattered like sudden hail. Shields thudded to earth. A levee boy near Rob knelt, cheeks muddied with tears. Rob's own men began binding prisoners, stripping helms, stacking arms beneath dripping canvas. Gray wind padded to his master's side, muzzle slick. The great wolf sniffed Stafford, lips curling until Rob laid a calming hand on sinewy neck. "Peace, old friend," he murmured. "Our work's done for tonight." Brynden reached them, torch casting fierce shadows across his lined face. "Ain victory," he said. "Losses lighter than expected." "Thank the storm," Rob answered. "And the gods." The Blackfish's smile was grim. "Storms favor bold men." He jerked his chin toward Bolton's detachments already forming ranks by the inner gatehouse. Yet some favor death too easily. Rob followed the glance. Roose Bolton directing 3 captains to march prisoners toward the south tower, away from the main yard. Already, screams wafted faintly. Bolton's order that no dying man suffer longer than a heartbeat, he would claim, but his knives never seemed content without unflinching demonstration. "Ensure they're treated humanely," Rob said sharply. "I shall speak to him," Brynden promised, departing with swift stride. Rob exhaled. Each victory birthed new worries. He made for the great hall, where guards had heaped kindling. The hearth roared when torches licked it. Warmth spread, steaming cloaks. Rob stripped wet leather, passing sword and scabbard to a retainer. He looked around the long deserted chamber, tapestries of Andals conquering first men. Golden lions prancing across crimson meadows, faded yet proud. A massive keystone carved into twin teeth overhead. Wine racks plundered half empty. War was as much about corridors and hearths as swords and charges, he thought. Hold the halls, hold the roads, hold the hearts. The body of the realm cannot ignore its severed limbs. Greatjon barged in, snorting victory. Tooth cracked easier than an old crone's hip, he boomed, slapping Rob's shoulder. "Send word to that goat Tywin, his shin bones next." Rob mustered a weary grin. "You and your men saved many lives." "Bah, talks for crows, ales for men." Umber seized a cask from the wine rack, smashed the top with his axe pommel, and began ladling foaming brown liquid into wooden bowls. "To River King Rob," he cried, thrusting the first bowl toward his sovereign. The hall erupted in cheers as others followed suit. Rob raised the bowl, drank deep. The ale tasted of metal and smoke. Greatjon's bawdy song filled rafters, joined by Mormont foot-tapping, piper whistling. For a few heartbeats, exhaustion lifted, replaced by communal fire, the oldest glue of armies. Yet in his chest, Rob felt still the pinch of responsibility. A crown invisible, but weighty. He set the bowl aside, weaving past celebrants toward a side door leading up to the battlements. Rain had slackened to mist. Lanterns flickered along the wall walk. He leaned over the parapet, staring west where black mountains knelt before the far sea. Somewhere beyond those ridges lay Lannisport, Casterly Rock, the heart that pumped crimson wealth into his foe's veins. He must squeeze that heart until it starved Tywin's ambitions. But each step deeper into their lands stretched his own supply lines taut, left River Run vulnerable, brought winter ever closer. Boots approached softly. Roose Bolton emerged, gauntleted hands clasped, eyes unreadable. "Your Grace," he began. Rob stiffened. "Lord Bolton, the prisoners are secured. I placed them in the mining barracks, sturdy walls, only one exit." "Done." "Good." Rob kept gaze on distant lightning but felt Bolton's chill presence. No unnecessary cruelty. Bolton's smile was thin. "Suffering breeds resentment. Resentment breeds resistance. I prefer pliant captives. Fear, used sparingly, remains more potent than steel." Rob turned. "See that you remember that word. Sparingly." Bolton bowed. "As you command." He vanished, cloak fluttering like a blood-soaked shadow. Rob exhaled slowly. The night swelled with damp and ghosts. Footsteps again, lighter, sure. Sir Walder Rivers, the bastard of the twins, approached with scroll in hand. "A raven, your grace, from River Run." Rob tore seal. Edmure's script shaky. Tywin had quit Harrenhal. 3 days passed, marching north along the Green Fork. Scouts estimated 20,000 seasoned swords. Worse, word from Lord Varys' whisperers reached them that Joffrey Baratheon had executed a score of Riverland hostages in King's Landing. Pipers, Vances, even young Lawleston children, in retribution for tonight's seizure of the Golden Tooth. Dates mismatched. Varys must have foreseen the fall and chosen to enrage them. Robb's stomach twisted. He reread, fists whitening. Innocent blood for a fortress. He had traded hostages he never knew for ground he could not yet hold. War weighed measureless. A creak of hinges announced Bryndon's arrival. He read the letter over Robb's shoulder, curse low. Tywin will push hard to cut us off from River Run, he warned. Robb's mind raced. We hold the pass for now. Mallister can harry their flanks along the Red Fork. If Renly marches... Renly. Bryndon's voice gentled, pitying. Cat has yet to reach him. Even if she secures alliance, can Renly move 100,000 within moons? Mules and wagons? Your grace, not airy ravens. Robb closed eyes. Rain pattered soft upon his cloak. He imagined Sansa in the Red Keep's high tower, Arya lost on some cobbled lane, Bran and Rickon huddled in Winterfell's hall. Every path he chose led away from one child or another. Bryndon placed a hand on his shoulder. We have the tooth. Cherish the bite, but don't swallow more than we can chew. He pointed east where torches dotted foothills, Umber patrols securing outworks. Tomorrow we repair gates, bolster walls. Let Tywin smash himself raw against stone he once trusted. Meanwhile, we bleed his levies in raids. Robb nodded slowly. Send ravens to Seaguard, Raventree, even to the Crannogs. Tell them the rivers have crowned their king and demand a levy of boats and marsh riders. Bryndon smiled grimly. The eels will like that. And Bryndon, dispatch word to Howland Reed. If Tywin marches the bogs, I want him knee-deep in peat before he sees the neck. As you say. Morning revealed corpses, strewn like uprooted thistles. The air hung thick with burnt pitch and horse droppings. Robb oversaw burial rites alongside Septon Omer, a lean man of salt pans, who quoted the 7 yet muttered prayers to the old gods too. Northmen burned their dead beyond the outer ditch. Riverlords dug mass graves near the foothill, marking each with cedar posts. Lannister bodies were stripped of armor and sent to earth unblessed. Robb permitted Stafford to speak a benediction. Pride could be balm for conquered hearts. Where walls had cracked from battering ram blows, Mormont engineers set to work with quarried stone and oak beams. Blackwood archers replaced shattered merlons with makeshift mantlets. Their arrows already fletched anew from seized Lannister shafts. Maeg Mormont herself took charge of ration stores, her daughters dispersing fish jerky and barley, while scolding men to chew not gulp. Greatjon drilled 500 green levies captured last night. Now River King's men on parole, into labor shoveling new ditches. Roose Bolton studied each prisoner with eyes like winter fog, selecting a handful to serve his personal quartermaster. When Robb questioned the practice, Bolton explained they were skilled scribes and cooks. Still, the faint rust-brown streak on their tunics left Robb uneasy about what price their skills truly cost. By noon, storm clouds scudded east, leaving crisp air that smelled of pine and triumph. Raven cages rattled as messengers launched skyward, bearing news of the River King's first conquest. In the Rookery Tower, Maester Vyman, sent by Catelyn to watch over her son, sorted scrolls. Robb climbed the spiral, boots echoing. Any word of mother? He asked. None yet, your grace. Vyman's spectacles glinted. But ravens from Deepwood Motte bring cheer. Lady Glover dispatches 2 longships up the Fever River laden with smoked cod and wool. They should reach Seaguard in a fortnight. Every morsel counts. Send thanks. He descended, finger tracing rough stone. The Golden Tooth felt already like a lung through which the army breathed. Harsh but vital. Yet lungs could clog, hearts could seize. Near the smithy, sparks flew as Tobho Mott's journeyman, captured in Margaery's retinue months before and sworn to forge for Robb, hammered a length of river iron into twin-headed spear. Robb paused, mesmerized by the rhythm. Each clang reminded him of Winterfell's forges, of Mikken, of childish mornings watching sword blades born from smoke. A boy ran up, cheeks flushed. "Your Grace, a rider from Roose Bolton's perimeter patrol seeks audience." Robb followed to the outer bailey where Bolton conferred with a gaunt scout. Mud spattered the man's cloak. His horse steamed. "Ambush, 5 leagues east," the scout reported. We harried stragglers. Wagon train flying Red Lion. Sir Adam Marbrand commands. Maybe 800 strong. They mustered by a burned mill. Look set to probe the pass. Could be Tywin's advance screen. Robb's pulse quickened. "How far from our foraging parties?" 2 leagues. No more. "Ready the outriders," Robb ordered. "Lord Bolton, take 500 horse. Sweep south flank. I'll lead the pikes up the low track." Bolton bowed. "Shall we seek battle or merely deter?" Robb's answer was steel. "We break them." The clash at Redleaf Ford began in late afternoon shadow. Marbrand's cavalry, armored in bright scale, splashed across the knee-deep stream, hooves sending crimson leaves spiraling. Robb waited on rising ground, ranks of bracken spearmen bristling behind lowered shields. At his flank, Lord Karstark's sons commanded a wedge of light horse ready to wheel. Bolton's detachment lurked unseen beyond alder copses, silent as dusk. Gray wind paced, hackles quivering. When horns sounded, the spears advanced 3 steps, planted. Marbrand's charge broke upon them like surf on stone, first wavering, then shattering as horses balked at steel hedge. Riders tumbled. Robb spurred forward, leading reserve swords into the gaps. Blade met mail. Sparks leapt. He parried a poleaxe, riposted, cut through gorget. Blood misted, glimmering red in slanted light. On the right, Karstark horse erupted from behind a knoll, slamming into Lannister flank. Panic rippled. Marbrand rallied a knot of knights, but Bolton's hidden column burst from woods at their rear, pink banners fluttering like flayed skin. Encircled, the lions fought fiercest near the fort itself, water churning pink. But numbers and surprise decided quickly. When Marbrand's own charger fell, pinning him, he loosed helm and cried for quarter. Robb dismounted, offering a hand. "Well met, Sir Adam. Your valor's known. Live to prove it wisely." Marbrand took the hand, grim yet dignified. "If Tywin had a dozen like you, boy, this war would be shorter. Let us hope you never find them." Robb signaled captains to gather prisoners. His eyes swept battlefield. 80 dead riverfolk, perhaps 100 lions. He had struck another blow, but each victory chipped away his own strength too. Mist curled above the ford as evening fell. It reminded him of White Harbor's morning fog. He ordered pyres built for his men, burial for the enemy. When the last dirge faded, he stood alone by the stream, where scarlet leaves drifted like tiny banners drowned. He knelt, touched water, felt its chill race veins to heart. A quiet voice behind, "Your Grace." Robb turned. Sir Helman Tallhart, rain-spattered, wearied. "Ravens from River Run," Tallhart said, holding out 2 scrolls. The first bore Edmure's seal, the second, an unknown sigil. A crowned stag within a burning heart. Robb slit Edmure's. Dire news. Tywin had looped north of the Twins, turned east, and now threatened Seaguard. Lord Jason Mallister's garrison remained in arms but feared isolation. Frey scouts reported Lannister outriders negotiating with Walder Frey for use of the Twins. Robb cursed. He opened the second. Lady Brienne's blade Stark hand. PGSQL. To Robb Stark, King of Rivers. From Lady Brienne of Tarth at Bitterbridge. King Renly accepts audience with Catelyn Stark at dawn, 2 days hence. He marches on King's Landing within the fortnight. He requests cooperative strategy and offers oath. Lannister blood shall quench the realm's wound. A flicker of hope. Yet dawn 2 days hence felt a lifetime. Tywin's maneuvers, Frey treachery, Seaguard's plight. Storm clouds collided from every quarter. Night swaddled mountains in ink. Robb rode back to the Golden Tooth, thoughts chasing each other like restless hounds. Reaching the fortress, he found Brynden waiting in the lamplit courtyard. "Roose Bolton wishes counsel," the Blackfish said. Robb followed to the war room carved into cliff heart. Bolton stood over a fresh map, candles guttering. He tapped a thin finger upon a trail north of Ashmark. "We can strike Lannisport now," he suggested. "Burn their docks, gut their purse. Tywin will scramble westward, abandoning his thrust at Seaguard." "Lannisport's walls are thick," Brynden countered. "Our fleet is none." Bolton's smile never reached eyes. "Walls burn when gates open from within. Gold, your grace, buys as well as swords. I have agents." "Dasn't," Robb considered. "Bold, risky, far along supply lines. Yet to relieve Seaguard, he might require an equal diversion." And Bolton, for all misgivings, commanded cunning. "We study it," Robb decided. "But first we must secure the pass. Greatjon holds the tooth with pikes. You and I ride east to relieve Seaguard. Mallister's home cannot fall." Bolton inclined head. "As you wish." Brynden traced the green fork on map Didite. "Freys may bar our crossing," he warned. "Walder plays both flutes." Robb's jaw clenched. "Then we break the bridge or pay the piper in steel. Either way, we cross." Later, in a chamber furnished with spare luxury, scavenged from Lannister officers, Robb sat alone, quill poised above parchment. The candle's flicker played across his brow. At length he wrote, "PGSQL, to Lady Sansa Stark, my beloved sister. If this raven reaches you, know your brother fights to bring you home. Hold courage. Remember Winterfell. Remember the godswood at dusk when dragonflies danced over the pond and father laughed. We will laugh again. Until that day, be brave, be wolf, and listen for the rivers singing your freedom. Your brother and king, Robb." He sealed it, though he knew not how to slip message into the Red Keep's iron belly. Still, the act steadied him. He slept little that night. Dreams flickered. Eddard's gentle hand on his head, Bran smiling on a tower roof, Catelyn's eyes shining with unspoken advice, gray wind leaping across moonlit water, and Tywin Lannister's shadow loomed, vast, gold eyes smoldering. Dawn came sharp, bright, smelling of frost despite summer's hold. Robb's banners cracked as wind rolled down mountain throats. Trumpets summoned men to march. Armor gleamed newly polished, horses snorted plumes. Robb rode before ranks. "We turn east," he proclaimed. "Lion claws creep toward Seaguard. We are the hammer to smash them against the sea." Cheers answered. Wheels creaked. Hooves shook earth. Brynden led the van with outriders. Bolton commanded center. Greatjon guarded rear with captured wagons. The Golden Tooth receded behind them, garrisoned by Mormont and Bracken troops under Sir Edmund Tully's temporary command. As they descended into lower valleys, air grew humid, thick with cedar. Villages hugged slopes, charred shells of cottages, mutely testifying to Gregor's raids. Small folk emerged timidly as the army passed, offering baskets of nuts, dried apples, tears. Robb dispersed salt and barley in return, instructing healers to remain and tend wounded children. Each act of mercy felt like mortar binding stones of his new realm. By the third day, scouts sighted the Red Fork, swollen by recent rain, red indeed with clay and runoff. Smoke curled on horizon. Seaguard's beacon towers rallying defense. Mallister banners flapped above walls still unbreached, but Lannister tents littered meadows southward like fungus after storm. Robb convened captains on hill crest. Below, Tywin's vanguard, commanded now by Sir Kevan, arrayed in crescent formation. Trebuchets assembling. Supply lines stretched west, ripe for severing. "We strike their flank before siege towers rise," Robb declared. Bolton sweeps south along reed beds, Karstark horse wheels from north, Greatjon assaults center with pikes. Mallister sallies from gate at signal. We crush between hammer and anvil. Plans etched, men dispersed. Robb lingered with Brynden, gazing at enemy lines. "One more victory may break Tywin," he murmured. "Or drive him to unthinkable deeds," Brynden warned. Cornered lions bite hardest. Thunder of hooves, clash of steel, screams of warhawks overhead. The assault on Seaguard unfurled with brutal beauty. At dawn's faint gray, Bolton's men roared from river mist, flayed man banners billowing like wound-weeping cloth. They fell upon unprepared Lannister sentries, cutting swaths before horns could sound. Karstark riders, cloaks streaming, thundered from high ground, skewering baggage lines, igniting grain wagons. Smoke pillars spiraled, blotting sun. Inside Sigurd, drums boomed. Malster's portcullis rattled upward. Knights surged out, sea eagle lances glittering. They smashed directly into the center where Sir Kevan hastily rallied pikemen. Greyjohn's pikes advanced behind, bristling wall that thrust and swallowed. Robb, at the heart of the formation, carved a red path. Grey wind harrowed fleeing men. Mallister's banner rose beside Wolftrout's standard, twin anchors of defiance. Somewhere near the beach, Bolton's riders chopped down the trebuchet crews. Sir Kevan fought like a veteran bull, parrying 3 Mallister spears, wounding a Karstark banner-bearer. But when his mount faltered, arrow through eye, he toppled into mud. Robb's sword hovered above his throat. "Yield, Sir Kevan." Blood dripped from Kevan's visor. "I yield," he gasped, passing blade hilt first. The Lannister line buckled. Trumpets shrilled retreat to the south bank. Panic stampeded through ranks. Some tried to swim the Red Fork, weighted by mail. Arrows tracked them like sleek fishers. On the western ridge, a hasty rally of reserve cavalry attempted countercharge, but found themselves pinned by Bolton's hidden archers. They faltered, then broke. By noon, silence settled, broken only by gull cries and moans of wounded. Seaguard's gates opened fully. Lord Jason rode forth, breastplate dented, eyes alight with awe and gratitude. "Your Grace," he hailed Robb, "Seaguard owes you its life." "We owe you its defense," Robb countered, clasping forearm. "This victory you share." Within Seaguard's keep, celebratory bells tolled. Cooks slaughtered goats, filled cauldrons. Yet Robb allowed no loosened belts. Patrols fanned out. Pickets dug in case Tywin himself lurked beyond next rise. Ravens flew again. News of triumph to River Run, to the Tooth, to Renly's encampment. That night, as torches flickered along Seaguard's walls, Robb stood atop the high flint tower, gazing seaward. A salt wind lifted his hair, tasted of distance and destiny. Somewhere far beyond the waves lay Dragonstone, where Stannis brooded. Beyond that, Essos, where Selsails watched Westeros burn. Here now the River King held a beaten pass and a spared port, but winter whispered from northern snows, and treachery coiled within uncertain allies. Footsteps again, ever the portent. This time Lady Sybil Spicer, escort of Walder Frey's granddaughters, asked audience. Robb's chest tightened. Another web. She curtsied. "Your Grace, Lord Walder petitions. His third son, Sir Cleos, lies wounded among prisoners. Lord Walder begs safe return as gesture of good faith." Good faith, Robb thought bitterly. Tell Lord Walder. I value good faith dearly. I granted his grandsons honors. I require his bridge open to River King and allies alike, without fee, for all time. Deliver that message, Lady Sybil, and Cleos rides home tomorrow. Naiwo. She bowed, lips twitching. I shall, Your Grace. When she vanished down spiral, Robb leaned against cold stone. Each decision a coin thrown into darkness. Every echo a new obligation. Gray wind padded beside, amber eyes reflecting distant signal fires. Robb stroked his fur, seeking counsel in silence. Will they sing of us, old friend? He whispered. The wolf huffed. Robb turned back to see. Lightning flickered on horizon, a thin white blade. Another storm brewed, and he must ride its crest or drown. But at his back stood rivers united, wolves and trouts entwined, hearts hardened by grief yet beating still. So long as water flowed, hope endured. He lifted invisible crown with weary pride, settled its weight upon his brow, and watched dawn break anew across a kingdom forged not of ice, nor fire, but living current and unyielding will. Igaha. Rain sang upon Seaguard's slate roofs all night, a soft, insistent lullaby that failed to soothe the restless. When gray dawn seeped through salt-fogged arrow slits, Robb Stark felt as though he had not truly slept in weeks. Only slipped between waking and half-dream. Sword never far from hand. Mind never unhitched from the wheel of command. He breakfasted on black bread and smoked herring beside Lord Jason Mallister in the keep's high hall, both men standing rather than sitting, as if chairs invited lethargy neither could afford. Outside, the port quays clamored with work. Carpenters refitting ballistae, rivermen coiling hemp, stable hands swarming to shoe the cavalry mounts that had carried them here through blood and mire. The sea beyond the walls was iron calm, yet gulls wheeled with a note of warning. A runner from the ramparts burst in, breath white in cold air. Riders from the twins approach, banners of House Frey. Robb's jaw tightened. He thanked the boy and strode to the courtyard, Mallister pacing beside him. Gray wind loped at heel, occasionally lifting his muzzle to taste brine on wind. Near the postern, men-at-arms parted to admit 3 cloaked figures spattered with road mud. At their head rode Sir Ryman Frey, heavy-jowled, eyes bleary as though late to every morning. Behind came Sir Perwyn, whom Robb remembered as a reserved man of middling honor, and Lady Rosalind, slender hood, drawn low. The moment Sir Ryman dismounted, he proclaimed in a voice too grand for the news he bore. Lord Walder extends greetings to His Grace the River King, and requests humble parley at the twins regarding matters of liaison and mutual defense. Robb answered coolly, "The last parley Lord Walder offered came with a price of marriage and hostages. I am marching to war, Sir Ryman, not to haggle dowries." "Even war must heed the coin of kinship," Ryman said, wiping rain from his lips. "Lord Walder, may the years yet be many upon him, desires peace along the Green Fork. Lannister gold tempts lesser minds, but the Freys are no lesser house." His tone belied the boast, anxious rather than proud. Perwyn took a step forward. "Your Grace, Ryman speaks plain. Our father sits on a knife edge. Lannister envoys promise riches. Bolton's riders whisper fear. Blackwood's ship gray north. Lord Walder seeks surety you do not break him should he hold the bridge for you." Robb folded arms, cloak stirring. "I have made my terms. Free crossing for all River King's forces, no toll, no delay. In return, I restore the Freys to the King's peace once the lions are broken. And any Frey levies who march with me keep all plunder captured west of the Trident." "Benchten," Sir Ryman scratched his beard. "And the matter of a marriage?" "'Twas spoken once." Mallister barked a laugh. "Your father would sell the 7 themselves a bridge if one of them would wed his grandchild." Robb raised a hand to forestall bickering. "We can speak of marriages when the realm is not aflame." He fixed Ryman with cold resolve. "Ride back. Tell Lord Walder the River King marches east in 3 days. If the bridge stands closed, we will seize it and dam the tolls forever. If it stands open, Frey will sup at my table in River Run when the harvest moon rises." "Them?" Rosalind Frey, who had been silent, lifted her hood just enough for gray eyes to meet Robb's. "My lord grandfather will heed harsh words where sweet gold shines louder," she murmured. "Send him something softer. A promise of honor. Perhaps a place at your court." Robb regarded her. "I promise this. The Freys who fight beneath my banners will dine as heroes and be remembered in every song sung along the Trident. If that is not honor enough, they may chase lion coin instead." "Nandiao." Perwyn inclined his head. "We will bear your words, your grace." They remounted and departed amid watchful stares, their horses' hooves clopping on cobbles slick with fish scales and rain. Mallister exhaled. "Walder will wring us dry if we let him." "We shall not," Robb said. "But we must cross that bridge. See, we have barges ready should it come to force." The following morn, maesters unrolled damp maps in Seaguard's war room. Ink blotches marked enemy positions. Tywin's main force encamped near Faircastle after news of Seaguard's relief. Sir Davin Lannister gathering fresh companies inland, the Kingslayer still caged at River Run's North Tower. More troubling were reports of Ironborn sails haunting the western horizon. Balon Greyjoy testing Lannister weakness, or perhaps sniffing at the River King's exposed back. Robb's mind juggled perils like a squire tossing knives, knowing one miscatch meant severed fingers. A raven arrived at midday. Parchment signed by Caitlin, sealed with a stag in a flaming heart, the sigil of Renly Baratheon's self-proclaimed kingship. Ibnet, Renly and his queen welcome alliance. He will ride for King's Landing within 10 days. He confers upon you title, Shield of the Trident, and swears ships of the Stormlands to keep Ironborn from your western shores. In return, he requests recognition of his claim upon the Iron Throne once the Lannisters are subdued. I find him gracious yet untested. His host is vast, its spirit high. I journey next to Bitterbridge to finalize. Robb's thumb pressed the wax until it cracked. Recognition of a southern king. Yet he himself now wore a crown of rivers. Brynden Tully read the letter and nodded slowly. Renly's host is worth 10 Tywins in the field, he said. But crowns breed quarrel. If you bend knee to him now, what becomes of your kingdom? Robb paced beside the long trestle, Grey Wind's eyes tracking every turn. The Riverlands need peace, not endless crowns. If Renly offers protection from Ironborn and common purpose against Lannisters, perhaps recognition costs less blood than defiance. Dowager, Roose Bolton, lounging like a cat near the hearth, interjected, unless Renly's crown shatters when Stannis swoops from Dragonstone. 2 Baratheon brothers make poor foundation for lasting peace. His pale eyes glittered. A cautious king gathers truths before oaths, and a wary lord spreads wagers, Mallister muttered, casting a sidelong glance at Bolton. Robb halted, fists planted upon the map. We march for the twins, he said. We cross within the week, then turn south to confront Tywin should he threaten Riverrun again. On the march, we send envoys to Renly and Stannis both. Let each know I fight lions first, and pledge friendship to any who aid that cause. Lord Karstark stroked his beard. Stannis answers friendship with cold law. He may demand you yield prisoners, hostages, perhaps the Kingslayer himself, to prove fealty. Then let him demand, Robb said. Until the lions are caged, no pledge can be weighed. 3 days later, the host departed Seaguard beneath clear skies. Sea air carried gull cries far inland. Banners snapped crisp, the new wolf and trout emblem catching sun like a silver flame. Seaguard's people lined the lanes, tossing sprigs of lavender and dried river mint, children waving reed-woven crowns. Robb tipped his sword in salute, feeling the strange warmth of being welcomed as savior rather than northern specter. They marched by leagues through rolling fields where summer wheat bowed golden, patched by charred scars of pillage. Each night, fires gleamed across dark hills. Some theirs, some unknown. Scouts clashed with Lannister outriders twice, returning with bruises but tales of enemy confusion. Tywin seemed to hesitate, uncertain where the River King would strike next. The initiative felt like a cloak of steel around Robb's shoulders. Yet storms brewed behind calmer horizons. On the 5th evening, as campfires flickered along the east bank of the Red Fork, a rider hammered toward headquarters, red-fletched arrows jutting from his back. He gasped out one phrase before collapsing. Ironborn, Stonebridge, sails on the Trident. Bolton's brows arched like drawn bows. Greyjoy chooses his moment well. Robb knelt by the dying scout, pressing cloth to wounds uselessly. How many ships? 20. Long ships, black sails with kraken. Blood bubbled at his lips. They burn. Salt wives, fair market. He stilled. Robb closed the scout's eyes, anger and dread knotting inside. The Ironborn raiding the Riverlands, while his host marched east. Could there be collusion? Greyjoy once fostered at Winterfell. Theon sailed with him now. Yet Balon's ambitions bowed to no friendship. Every day, new fronts sprouted like dragon's teeth. He summoned council by lamplight. Brynden, Mallister, Karstark, Bolton, Maege Mormont. I cannot chase krakens and lions both, he said. Suggestions? Mallister stabbed the map where the trident met the god's eye. Ironborn thrive on undefended rivers. Give me 500 bowmen, plus my Riverwalk cavalry. And I'll ride hard to Fairmarket, harry them inland. They fear horse lines. Bolton's voice oiled across the chamber. Or let them raid. The longer Greyjoy stings Lannister villages, the more peasants curse lion banners, not trout and wolf. Robb shook his head. They don't see sigils while their homes burn. They only see kings who failed to shield them. Meg Mormont rapped knuckles. The Bear Island knows raiders. Hit them from riverbank with harpoons and slings, while outriders bar their retreat to boats. Brynden laid a calming hand on the map. Dot-eyed. Lord Jason knows those currents. Let him go. Meanwhile, River Run remains our spine. Too vital to strip further. The rest of us press to the Twins. Cross, then wheel south before Tywin regains his stride. Robb agreed. Mallister, you sail at first light. Take Mormont spears for river ambush. Mallister bowed with fierce relish. Bolton's thin smile suggested private calculations, but he voiced no objection. The march resumed, heavy now with haste. Grey wind prowled distant hedgerows, periodically returning spattered with burrs and rabbit blood. Robb read reports by horseback. Mallister had met the raiders near Old Stones, driven them back into river shallows, where Mormont spears gutted 3 longships. But more Krakens prowled the coast, perhaps lured by rumors of gold and chaos. 2 nights later, beneath half moon, Hallis Mullen returned from an advance scout across the Green Fork with grim tidings. The western span of the Twins was raised, its iron chains rattling above churning water, and Frey banners hung motionless. No torches, no activity. As if the bridge had turned to myth. Robb called halt 2 miles short of the crossing, pitching camp in fallow fields, haunted by wind. At dawn he rode with a small retinue. Brynden, Roose, Sir Helman, Lady Mormont, toward the grey monoliths of Frey towers. Trumpets announced their approach, but no horns echoed back. The river shimmered copper under early sun. Gulls perched on weed-choked pilings where the lower drawbridge usually rested. A lonely figure awaited on the near bank. Sir Stevron Frey, stooped, cheeks blanched. He bowed stiffly. Your Grace. Robb reined in. Why is the bridge lifted? Stevron's hand trembled on his cane. My father. He suffers ague. The maester forbids audience until the fever breaks. Brynden snorted. A sickbed never stilled Walder Frey's tongue these past 90 years. Stevron swallowed. There is another matter. My brother, Sir Ronel, departed 2 days past with riders for Lannisport. Father fears a retaliatory strike. He bargains for protection. Better wire. So he closes the bridge against his own king, Robb finished, ice in voice. Roose Bolton leaned to whisper. A swift assault could seize the eastern tower. Chain winches there control both leaves. Hallis Mullen frowned. Frey's archers could feather half our vanguard in crossing. Robb addressed Stevron. Tell Lord Walder he has until sunset to open the bridge and swear fealty, or I take tower by storm and declare House Frey forfeit. Stevron's pallor grew. My father will not yield under threat. Then he will yield under steel. Robb wheeled his horse, cloak flaring. He rode back through spitting drizzle to camp, mind-mapping assault angles. Bolton's silent clamors at dusk, Karstark archers covering rope ladders, Greyjoy's ram to wreck the portcullis. He shared the plan with captains, but Mage Mormont raised a bare strong hand. A tower fight costs dearly, she warned. Greystone is old yet sound. And once we hold it, we still face the eastern span. Brynden scratched his whiskers. There's another crossing, at Old Ferry, upstream 8 miles. Flatboats moored there once served traders. We could lash them into Raft Bridge under cover of night. Roose Bolton's smile was faint. Better yet, give Freys the illusion of choice. Faint assault at East Tower while real force crosses upriver, flanking them at dawn. Walder may prefer surrender to sack. Robb nodded. Bolton commands feint. Brynden, take 2,000 across Old Ferry. The moment you hold the far bank, loose blue-fletched arrows skyward. When I see them, I lead main host over the bridge if lowered, or breach if not. And there. Orders flew. Cloaks darkened with rain, fires muffled beneath tarps. That night, as cloud swallowed moon, Bolton's detachments crept toward the stone hulks, lute softly plucking to mask boot crunch. Meanwhile, Brynden guided spear and bow along shadowed bank. Torches doused. Only Rivers murmurs for company. Robb waited in command tent. Gray wind pacing. He felt each heartbeat drag. Outside, iron struck flint. Sparks flew. Shields buckled. An owl shrieked, abruptly silenced by arrow. Minutes crept into hours. Then, a flare. Blue shafts rising above trees to the east. Pinpricks of cobalt against murk. Robb seized helm, mounted. To the bridge. He galloped to front ranks already arrayed. Trumpets blared. Umber pikes advanced, Karstark horse pawed earth. Across water, shouts erupted, torches flaring along battlements. A moment later, the western drawbridge rattled downward, chains lurching. Through archway, Robb glimpsed Stevron gesturing frantically. The gatehouse portcullis clanged open. They advanced at quick march, wary of treachery, until they stood beneath Frey banners, drooping heavy with rain. Stevron met Robb inside the barbican, breathless. Father yields. His fever. He wishes peace. Robb forced calm. Where's Lord Walder? In his solar. He begs you attend. Robb strode through musty corridors smelling of damp parchment. Walder Frey lay in a canopied chair, blankets high, skin waxen. Yet his eyes, sharp as flint, tracked Robb's approach. Servants withdrew. Walder croaked. You come like wolves to my door, boy. Robb kept voice even. You closed the door first. I open it again. To you or against you? That too. Walder coughed a laugh. Bold. Bold enough I'll not risk my towers for lion coin. He shifted, grimacing. Bridge stands open. My levies march behind your host, under their own captains, and if the day is won, I want two things. My claim to Harrenhal's eastern villages confirmed, and a Frey bride wed to a River King's lord. Robb considered. Harrenhal's holdings were contested. If Tywin held the ruin, the grant was meaningless until the lion fell. As for marriage, he could pledge some lesser lord, perhaps a Bracken cousin, to soothe Frey vanity. Agreed, he said. Swear now, before gods and men. Maester Merritt produced parchment. Walder's trembling signature crept like a spider across page. Robb sealed document, with both sigils intertwined. The Freys bent knee, most with grudging creaks. By noon, the entire army filed across the Twins. On the eastern bank, Brynden's men welcomed them. No losses save one scout swept off raft by current. Bolton's feint had drawn only sporadic arrow fire. The bridge changed hands without blood. It was victory of strategy, not steel, but no less dear. South of the Twins sprawled green meadows dotted with blue flax. The host marched swift, heartened by progress. Yet courier ravens belied grim news. Renly Baratheon slain at Storm's End. Whispers of shadow, sorcery, impossibility. His vast host fractured. Many lords now rode to Stannis, others to King's Landing, some to houses of old allegiance. Catelyn's letters stank of smoke and confusion. Robb read dispatch beneath an ash tree, rain rattling leaves above. His hands trembled not from cold, but from the sudden vacuum where alliance had hovered. Renly dead. The shield promised against Lannister turncoats, and Ironborn raids vanished. Karstark spat when he heard. 7 damnings. Now, Stannis marches with fresh swords. He'll claim your head for treason if you hold the Kingslayer. Mage Mormont grunted. Stannis never forgets insult, yet he hates Lannister more. He might parley if we offer proof of Cersei's bastards. Edric Storm, they say, is in Storm's End. Robb sheathed the letter. We march on advancing. If Stannis takes King's Landing, I will treat with him, king to king. Bolton's voice coiled like smoke. And if Joffrey holds, will you send terms to a boy who took your father's head? Nesumhuan. Robb's jaw set. No. That boy dies or bends. His eyes shifted to distant hills where Tywin's lion banners lurked unseen. But first the rock must bleed. Autumn's breath swept across Westeros, crisping leaves, dimming the sun sooner each night. Robb's host skirted the edge of the Blackwater Rush, avoiding open battle until supply wagons caught up. Scouts reported Tywin entrenched near Maidenpool, uncertain whether to face Stannis on the Blackwater or block Robb's southward thrust. The realm twisted in knots. At Stonehenge, war found them. Sir Davin Lannister, Golden Cloak proud, led 10,000 Westmarch levies to reclaim the crossing. Robb outnumbered him scarcely 6-5, but terrain favored the River King, woods of towering oaks, marshy rivulets, a narrow causeway flanked by reeds. The night before battle, Robb gathered captains in silent grove. Torches flickered against bark scarred by lightning years prior, as though the trees wore memories of storms. Davin expects us to stand shield wall along the causeway, Robb said. We will not. Karstark horse circles through the fen on his right flank at dawn. Maeg Mormont spears hide in low ditch until horns sound. Greatjon feints center withdrawal, drawing them into kill zone where Bolton archers line the tree line. Flaming arrows ready to fire reed beds. Bimdamai. Bolton's pale lips quirked. Fire and mire. A cruel mix. War is cruel, Robb replied. But shorter cruelty spares longer agony. He dismissed them, remaining alone beneath the weeping trees. Catelyn's face haunted memory, her worry for his soul each time battle gnawed more of it. He knelt, pressed hand to earth damp with fallen leaves, asking old gods or new for guidance. Gray wind curled beside him, eyes ember bright. Keep watch, Robb whispered, though the wolf always did. Dawn's first blush painted Stonehenge in hues of rust and rose. A pale mist clung to the fen, hiding Karstark's riders as they picked slow path through watery channels. Greatjon's center formed ragged line along causeway, shields banging in feigned nervousness. Across the marsh, Davin Lannister's host advanced in confident ranks, trumpets blaring high garden tunes, stolen under Gold Lion standards. At the chosen moment, Greatjon's horn sounded retreat. The center fell back, seemingly in disorder. Davin laughed, urging knights to charge across the narrow spit where reeds concealed slippery quagmire. As their hooves tore shallow turf, Bolton's arrows whipped overhead, igniting tar-dipped shafts that plunged into reed beds with sudden whoosh. Flames leapt, walls of scorching heat, funneling Lannister vanguard into bottleneck. Horses shrieked. Men cursed. Then Karstark's cavalry emerged from fog on right flank, spears glittering, smashing into exposed side. Panic rippled. Riders collided, footmen stumbled into marsh water choked by fire smoke. Greatjon reversed, roaring, pushing pikes forward with berserker fury. From ditch on left, Mormont women surged, shields paddled with bare paws, axes hewing red arcs. Battle became slaughter in reed-wreathed corridors. Davin tried to rally, but smoke blinded, signal horns muffled. When his standard fell, cut by Bryndon's sword, surrender rippled like dye in water. Bodies floated, their gilded armor tarnished by mud and ash. Robb rode among prisoners after dusk, accepting yields. He found Davin kneeling beside a burned cart, eyes red-rimmed. "We were fools," Davin said hoarsely. "You fight like your sire, but keener." Robb grasped his arm. "War's folly, not men." He gestured for water and physician. That night, campfires spread along Fen Ridge like stars fallen to earth. Robb walked perimeter, listening to crackle, distant moans, the hush of weary survivors. Each pyre of enemy dead reminded him of an unseen ledger tallying souls lost under his crown. He encountered Roose Bolton by a shallow pond, where will-o'-wisps drifted. Bolton's reflection quivered in black water. His voice was silk. "Your grace commands victory with grace. Yet each wind bleeds our stores. Winter creeps, might we consider—" Robb interrupted. "The offer you pressed days past, striking Lannisport from within, still stands." Bolton's eyes shone. "It does. My agents await only word. A night's ride can send ravens bearing coin and promise. See to it." Robb's tone brooked no joy, only necessity. If Lannisport garrisons must rush home, Tywin will peel from his fortress. Then we choose ground. No. Bolton bowed. As you wish, River King. Robb watched him blend into darkness, unease settling like frost along spine. Yet he allowed the plan. Desperation often courted devils. Weeks passed in swift brushstrokes. Skirmishes near Wayfarer's Rest, a parley with Blackwood and Bracken envoys who reluctantly drank to shared cause. Fresh Kraken raids thwarted by Malisters strengthened Riverfleet. Catelyn's ravens brought fragmented tidings. Stannis besieged at Blackwater Bay by wildfire. King's Landing still under lion grasp. Rumors of dragons hatching in far Essos. The world spun faster than any king could ride. In late Frostmoon, news reached camp that Lannisport had erupted in riot. Warehouses aflame. Dockworkers lynching lesser lords. Coins bearing stag stamped across lion eyes. Whispers claimed Bolton's gold. Fueled the spark. Tywin, encamped near Harrenhal now, had turned west with half his strength, dragging siege engines, leaving King's Landing to Cersei's intrigues. It was opportunity carved raw and waiting. Robb summoned War Council on ridge overlooking the calm deep waters of the God's Eye. Its island castle Harrenhal brooding on horizon like a maimed titan. Candles guttered in wind while gulls screeched over distant shallows. "We march for Harrenhal," he declared. "Take the ruin before Tywin returns. A garrison there splits the realm and gives us hearth for winter." Bryndon's brows knit. Harrenhal is cursed, its halls drafty, forges cold. "But forges can be stoked," Robb answered. "Walls patched, towers garrisoned, and the symbol, lions fled, rivers risen, will echo from Skagos to Sunspear. Now," Karstark hammered fist to table, "aye. Let ghosts fear us for once." Only Roose Bolton watched in silence, eyes gleaming reflection of candle flame. The road to Harrenhal cut through leafless groves and sodden fields. Ravens flocked in unnatural numbers, perching on broken statues along Old Kingsway. Soldiers muttered of portents. Robb pushed them forward with steady pace, banners streaming. On the third dawn, they beheld the great towers, blistered and black, like talons grasping pale fog. No lion banners flew, only ragged pennons of burnt orange fluttered from gatehouse. Sign of Vargo Hoat's Sellsword band, the brave companions rumored to hold the castle in Tywin's stead. Robb arrayed host in crescent outside moat, still steaming with sulfur. He offered terms. Safe passage for those who yielded. Coin for those who fought for him henceforth. Steel for any who resisted. Hoat, lisping through missing teeth, arrived at the gatehouse parapet. "We care not for lion or wolf," he called, spittle spraying. "But coin speaketh loud. Pay double what Tywin promiseth, and the horse and knight gives you Harrenhal." Dante. Robb's stomach churned at Hoat's legend. Mutilations, tongues severed. But diplomacy required grit. He named a sum, enough to sting but not cripple, and offered safe terms. Hoat cackled, demanded hostages. Robb refused. Parley crumbled. Zegan engines rolled, but gates groaned open before first stone lobbed. The brave companions filed out, weapons sheathed, some whistling bawdy tunes. They surrendered for half the price once promised, citing lack of food and Tywin's unpaid wages. Robb allowed them to depart south under escort, though Bryndon warned they'd soon prey on small folk again. Robb entered Harrenhal at midday. The courtyard gaped enormous, capable of housing all his host within. Smithies lay cold, cisterns cracked, but granaries contained moldy grain enough for a moon. He ordered fires lit in the Hall of 100 Hearts, drove out rats, and hoisted the crowned wolf-trout banner atop the tallest tower. The wind caught it, unfurling against charred stone like dawn against ashes. While engineers assessed ruins, Robb walked the Godswood, a stunted grove clinging to life amid blasted masonry. A weirwood stump, burned down in Egan's conquest, jutted like bone from red soil. Catelyn's voice echoed in memory, where the trout and direwolf as one sigil. Here at last, that union felt carved in rock. Night fell deep over Harrenhal. The lake mists hugged ramparts, muting camp noise. Robb convened captains in Lord Harren's cursed chambers, not fearing ghosts. His burdens weighed heavier than any specter. They plotted winter quarters, supply lines to River Run and north, alliances to secure with rivermen houses, still wavering. But even as plans took root, a shadow stretched from corner, Maester Vyman, bearing fresh raven scroll, tiny, black, ominous. Robb opened it under torchlight. PGSQL. From Lady Sansa Stark, Hand of the Queen, King's Landing. Queen Mother Cersei announces Prince Joffrey slain by enemy assassins. My sister Arya named culprit. Rumor spreads she hides in city. Crown passes to King Tommen, Lord Tywin returning by forced march. Small folk riot. Oh. The Hound flees. Chaos swells. Robb's breath froze. Joffrey dead. Lion without fangs. But Tywin unshackled from fatherly duties, marching east again with vengeance. He raised eyes to council. The realm churns like storm tide. We must be rock within. Roose Bolton stepped into torch glow, face unreadable. Your Grace, with Joffrey dead, Queen Regent may parley for peace. Kingslayer for sisters, Riverlands reinstated, North pardoned. Robb shook head. Cersei never surrenders, she plots anew. We hold Harrenhal. We strengthen rivers. We await Tywin. If he breaks upon these walls, the realm may tire of lion war at last. Nender, Brynden added, and if Stannis or Tommen prevails while we wait, then we forge anew. Robb's gaze swept banners lining hall. Bear trout, eagle, flayed man. My crown binds waters and woods. Let others scramble for iron chair of thorns. We will guard the heart that feeds them all. The captains bowed. Plans redrew lines. Scouts readied to shadow Tywin. Smiths relit forges. Masons patched ramparts. Winter pressed close, but Harrenhal's hearth fires blazed defiant, painting walls with flickering silhouettes. Some men, some perhaps ancient ghosts, come to witness a new king breathing life into dead stone. Robb walked ramparts alone before dawn. Mists curled below, like restless spirits. Beyond lay the wide lake, still as kept promise. He felt the weight of every hope laid upon him. Mother's faith, father's honor, brother's future, sister's freedom, realm's breath. Yet within the weight there pulsed a steady river beat. Relentless, carving, unbroken. Gray wind padded beside him, and together they faced the east, where faint pink traced horizon. Robb spoke softly. We will not bend, we will not freeze. Let them come. And when first light speared through tower gaps, painting sigil upon blasted walls, the River King straightened, drew cloak tight, and descended to forge a dawn of blood and water. Ice and flame, woven into destiny, by the strength of a crown born not of jewels, but of living currents, and the unyielding heart that dared guide them.